Welcome back to Peace in the Storm, Faith in the Uncertainty. This is the finale of our 10-part journey, a collection of stories that have carried us through sorrow, betrayal, waiting, sickness, shame, uncertainty, and redemption. If you've been walking with us through this series, you know by now that peace isn't the prize you find at the end of the battle. It's the presence you discover within it. It's the whisper of God in the middle of the chaos that says, "Be still, I'm here." And today we end our journey with David, the shepherd who became a king, the warrior who became a poet, the man after God's own heart, who walked through fire, who walked through failure, and who walked through forgiveness, and still found peace in every single storm. See, before the crown, before the battlefield, before the throne, there was a field. It was there, surrounded by sheep in silence, that David learned the rhythm of peace. He wasn't a king yet. He wasn't famous and he wasn't followed. He was just faithful, showing up to the pasture every single day with a harp in his hand and worship in his heart. When no one saw him, God did. When no one listened, heaven did. It was in that quiet, ordinary place that David learned peace isn't built in palaces, it's built in presence. He watched the stars and he talked to their maker. He learned the heartbeat of God before he ever led his people. So when a lion came and when a bear attacked, David already knew what peace under pressure looked like. He had written this truth deep into his soul. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Because he had been both the shepherd and the sheep. He had learned early that God was faithful to cover both. Maybe that's where peace truly begins, not in victory, but in the quiet, unseen places where faith and obedience, where they meet. When David stepped onto the battlefield, it wasn't him showing off. It was him showing up. He had no armor, he had no sword, just a sling and a few smooth stones, and a heart that had already seen God move. See, everyone else saw a giant. David saw another chance for God to be God. He remembered the lion. He remembered the bear. He remembered every time that God came through for him before. So when he stood there and said, "You come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty," that's not arrogance, that's peace. The kind of peace that comes when you've walked so long with God that you don't fear what stands in front of you because you remember who stands beside you. But not every storm roars from a battlefield. Some whisper through the darkness of hiding. After his victory, David was hunted by Saul, the very man who once called him son. The king once who celebrated him now chased him through the wilderness, drove him. He was driven by jealousy and by fear. David ran for his life and found refuge in a cave called Adullam. It was cold. It was dark. It was lonely. And yet, that's where peace met David again. In that still, hollow place, David wrote, "I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him, I tell my trouble." He didn't pretend to be strong. He poured out his pain with transparency and rawness, and somehow peace began to seep in, not because his circumstances changed, but because his conversation with God, it never stopped. That's what real peace looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to stop talking to God while you feel it. Peace doesn't always come in silence. Sometimes it comes in the sound of your own cry being heard. Then came the crown, the palace, the favor, and the peace faced its hardest test. It faced comfort. Because sometimes it's not pain that tests your peace. It's actually success. One evening, David stood on the rooftop. He saw Bathsheba bathing and made a choice. That choice would break his own heart and the heart of his family. Desire became deception. Deception became death. And suddenly the man after God's own heart was hiding from the God who once hid him. But even then, grace found him. When the prophet Nathan confronted David, David didn't defend himself. He fell to his knees and wrote words that still echo through centuries of repentance. Have mercy on me, O God. According to your unfailing love, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. That's the beauty of David's storm. Even when he broke covenant, he never broke communication. Peace after failure isn't denial, it's the humility to return. It's the courage to say, even here, you're still my God. David's story isn't about a perfect man, it's about a persistent faith. See, David faced giants and he hid in caves. He buried friends and children. He carried guilt and he carried glory in the same hands. And yet, through every storm, he kept writing songs of peace. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? I sought the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. He leads me beside still waters and he restores my soul. That's not peace from ease. That's peace born from experience. Maybe your storm looks like David's. Maybe you're fighting battles no one sees. Maybe you failed more times than you can count. Maybe you're hiding in a cave of regret or of uncertainty. If that's you, take heart, because peace isn't the absence of the storm, it's the presence of your shepherd. The same God who met David in the pasture, in the cave, on the battlefield, and in his brokenness still meets you right where you are. So take a breath, lay down your weapons and your armor, and let peace fight for you, because peace doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and that whisper, it's enough. Pull up a chair, the table has been set, and as we close this season of peace in the storm, faith in the uncertainty, may you find that peace isn't something you chase, it's someone who carries you through.